As the Australian Defence Force winds down from a decade of deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's turning its attention once again to the strategic uncertainties of Australia's near region. There's no shortage of potential flashpoints in our own neighbourhood. Elections in Papua New Guinea and East Timor this year, a more fragile Solomon Islands, and maritime tensions in the South China Sea. The ADF often talks about punching above its weight, but the reality is somewhat different. Australia is the 13th largest spender on defence in the world, ahead of much larger countries like Canada and Turkey. Yet, as the Secretary of Defence mentioned in October last year, Australia has struggled to match its capability aspirations with its capacity to deliver. In 2011, real problems were unearthed within the Royal Australian Navy. Amphibious ships couldn't put to sea when needed, submarines had to turn back on their way to exercises, and an internal review concluded that Navy's engineering ability needed to be rebuilt from the ground up. In each case, investigations showed that Navy had been under pressure to deliver capability during a period of high operational tempo in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, East Timor, and in Australian waters on border patrol. And in each case, warnings of emerging systemic failure had been ignored. The Minister of Defence called it a can-do and make-do culture. The ADF now is starting to deeply and critically assess whether it can deliver capability and modernise for the Asian century ahead. A striking example of the complexity and challenge of this transformation is the development of the ADF's amphibious force. Later this year, the hull of Australia's first amphibious ship will be delivered to Melbourne. Later this decade, the ADF will be operating an expeditionary amphibious force centred on 2 large landing helicopter dock ships, which carry between 16 and 24 helicopters. Building an amphibious force is much more complex than just embarking Army troops on Navy ships. The ADF will need to relearn how to operate an airport at sea, how to maintain its helicopters and vehicles in a marine environment, how to command up to 1,000 embarked troops, and how to conduct joint fires and land troops ashore. None of this will be easy. Australia will also need to be considerate of regional reactions to a potent Australian amphibious force. Whilst Australian troops will train with rotations of US Marines in Darwin, perhaps Indonesian Marines could be detached aboard the first LHD when it deploys in 3 years' time. And it's not only Australians asking whether the ADF can transform itself and deliver on operational capability. As the ANZUS alliance intensifies, our security ally is increasingly looking to verify that Australia can contribute to the defence partnership. Observers are starting to refer to Australia as the southern anchor in a changing Asia. But Americans also want to know that that anchor won't drag.